What's up, everybody? How are you guys doing? Welcome to the Coin Talk Show with Surfer and Nick. Tonight, though, it's just going to be me. Nick lives out in Maine, and I think she's like a half a mile away from the nearest human being. And so she's way out there in the woods. And for whatever reason, the weather is broken, guys. I don't know. And she's having a major thunderstorm and rainstorm to where her electricity is totally cut out. And so she only has cell phone access and isn't able to stream. Hopefully she'll jump on the live stream with us in the chat and be able to make a few comments with us, which would be great. But hopefully she'll be coming. So I've got a guest, but before we get to the guest, I've got a few things I wanted to catch up on with you guys. So first off,
you want to make millions of dollars?
Oh, if you want to make millions of dollars, guys, come to this channel, that's for sure. We're going to help you guys make millions of dollars as we watch the price of precious metals go down. So this is where prices ended for the week. You can see that there, gold's down a little bit, but it's still holding that $2,000 line above it. And silver's still holding above $22.50. But one of the things I wanted to point out here is that platinum and palladium have been starting to flip here a little bit, which is really interesting. Palladium had been way high for a long time and has come down significantly, and platinum has been coming down too. You're starting to see those two kind of switch, which is interesting. So anyway, that's something to kind of watch. I do have a video that'll be coming out next week with Sean's Precious Bullion about platinum. We're going to be talking about what platinum is. It'll start a new series of Platinum University courses that we'll have on the channel for you guys to watch too, which will be pretty fun. So first off, I want to welcome everybody into the chat. So West Texas Stacker, welcome. He is wanting to watch a hockey game with the family. So he's at the hockey game, so he's commenting. Well, you can always watch this later. It'll be fun. Today we're going to talk about banking. I've got a banking guest with me. We'll also talk a little bit about real estate as well too. Azure Blue, welcome. Glad to have you here. And Pete Clark and Seymour Rivers, thank you. Also Michael Stacking, welcome to the show. And then OC Stacker, glad to have you here on as well. All right, guys. So a couple other things just to point out. We will have our live stream on Tuesday on Nick's channel at 6 o'clock Pacific, 9 o'clock Eastern. And I don't know if we have a guest or not, so look for her post on her channel. If you haven't subscribed to her channel, please do that. That way you don't miss anything. And then hit the bell icon so you guys don't miss these notifications. I'm missing a lot of my notifications for channels that I'm following. I don't know why they're not coming through. Mark Samuelson, welcome. And let's see. So Azure Blue says platinum is about 20 times rarer than gold, and palladium is about 25 times rarer than platinum. So on my first video, we've made a couple of them with platinum that'll be coming out. We talk about that Azure Blue. We also talk about the denomination on the coin. So you'll see a 1 on the silver coins. You'll see a 25 on the palladium coins. And then you'll see 50 on the gold. And you'll see 100 on the platinum coin, which is really interesting because those metals are not lined up quite like that right now. And anyway, so that's that on platinum. We'll be covering that off in a little bit. So tonight, what I thought I would do is my dad is in town. He's going to join us here in just a second. And I'll give you guys a little background on him as we get started here. But I thought I'd bring him on to help answer any questions you guys might have around banking. So what I'll kind of throw out, and I'll let him maybe tell a little bit of his past too. But my dad's a guy that has been in the finance area for a long time. He had a mortgage company at one time. He also worked for a savings and loan, and he's been a real estate developer. So he's had a lot of experience around getting financing, having money in a bank account and trying to deal with a lot of those things. So, right now we've got a lot of questions in the market about, is your money safe in the bank? What are the risks that are there? A lot of people that are stacking gold and silver are concerned about what's going to happen with the money in the bank. So we'll talk a little bit about the function, what is reserved, what is fractional reserve lending? How does it work? How does it function? Why do banks use it? How do the banks make some money? We'll talk a little bit about that too tonight. And then we'll talk about some of the things you can do to safeguard your money that is at the bank, and maybe some tips and ideas around pulling some of it out. I'm not telling you guys to go do a run on the bank, but having some money to take care of some bills you may have if for some reason you can't get to the bank, another pandemic happens, or there's a cyber attack or anything else like that could come into play. So we'll cover off on that as well. Craig, welcome. Good to have you here. And Farm Dog, welcome as well. All right, so I'm going to bring my guest on here. Let's see. We're going to slowly do a reveal here, it looks like. That's all you get. Just kidding. All right, come closer. I don't think the camera's going to reach there.
Okay.
All right. So what's the first resemblance that you guys see here? All right, we're going to turn it like this a little bit better. All right. So you got to put in the chat here. You got to come up with where do we look the same? Where do we look different here, guys? The chat will come. It lags a little bit. Hair. You guys think we have similar hair? He's got more hair than I do. Both handsome. I like that answer.
Oh my goodness.
Oh man. So we got glasses on, right? So we don't have perfect eyes, that's for sure. He's got more dimples than I do. My twin daughters both have dimples on both sides. So they took after my dad on that. We both have glasses. We have, flowy hair. Let's see. This ear here is a Cancer ear, so that doesn't really count. But I think our ears are kind of similar.
And my hair used to be darker than his.
His hair used to be pretty dark. So I started off blonde and went pretty dark brown. Your hair was more like jet black. Yeah, I think it was pretty dark. So anyway, if you guys saw my live stream earlier, we were at the car show checking things out, and OC Stacker saw it, and he texted me and he said, "Was that your dad in the background?" He's like, "That guy looked like he had the same kind of hair you have." So that's kind of funny. So all right, guys. Hey, Amy, welcome. So a couple things I wanted to start off with, as we're looking at banking stuff, is first off, anything we're talking about here tonight is not financial advice. I'm not going to tell you guys to run away from the banks and don't use them. You have to pretty much have a bank today to function and to run a business, or even your household. I don't know about you guys, but a lot of the way I pay bills is through my bank, through bill pay. Some of them I'll do through my credit cards. And primarily, I'm just using the credit cards to be able to get points so that I can fly the family for less money, or get, hotel points, things like that. But you got to have banks. You've got to function with those banks. So what I want you guys to do is be thinking in your head some questions you can put in the chat that you guys have around banks. We had a handful of, we had problems in the 80s with savings and loans. We had problems with every savings and loan pretty much in 2008. Just last year, we had some of the largest failures of banks happen. And right now we're in a situation where it looks like a lot of them are kind of on the edge of having things happen. So today, I'm hoping by the time you leave, you feel a little bit more comfortable about the kind of money you have in the bank, but you also feel comfortable about having some alternatives to that as well. So, okay, Dad. So the first question I have is there any other thing that you wanted to introduce yourself by that I left out?
No, I was on a bank board of a $17 billion bank for about 17 years. But I've been off that board for about 15 years. So a lot of things have changed, but there's still some basics that perhaps I can help with.
So the stuff he can help answer, guys, are going to be things relating to overall how banks work. So here's our first question. What's the difference between a credit union and a bank? And I would also throw that out as like a savings and loan.
Okay. Well, credit unions are usually more on the local basis, perhaps even regional. But they're basically the same. They take in deposits and they lend out money, but they're owned by their depositors. The depositors own the bank or the credit union. On a bank, it could be a mutual bank, but most of the time it's a stock-owned bank. And so the shareholders own the bank, and it's a different charter. They can do different things. They have regulations on how much money they can put in different categories.
Okay. What about a savings and loan? How did those function?
Well, savings and loans were started back in the early 1800s, and that's people pooling money together to be able to afford a house. It used to be prior to that time that if you wanted a house, you had to build it for cash. And so a lot of people couldn't afford to buy or build a house or buy a house because they didn't have all the cash. So they got together and started these savings and loans with the primary goal is lending out on mortgages on homes. And that's basically the difference. And they had to have something like 80 to 90% of their money invested in home loans and mortgages.
Okay. So what you guys are seeing there is we, as a country, we used to have 3 different ways that you could store your money and go and get loans with these different organizations. They each had a little bit different function. You can probably guess who has the most power of those 3, which I'm just going to throw it out there. To me, it seems like it's the banks, especially the big national banks have a lot of power there. But they each had different components and different reasons that they were started and that they existed. Every one of them would allow you to deposit money. They would securely store it for you, and you would get some kind of a slip, or, now we have electronics. So you'd have a bank account ledger online you could go look at and see how much money you have. All of them function by giving you some kind of interest. So they're using your money that you deposit, and they're going to try to make more money from that money. And in return, you're going to get some kind of an interest rate. I think it's pretty much since the 80s, we haven't really seen a great interest rate at banks until just the last year and a half or so. And even at that, I think it's mostly the regionals that are giving out better interest rates. I use like Wells Fargo and then US Bank are the 2 banks that I use primarily. I also have a credit union that I use out of Utah. And, the credit union is giving a better, higher interest than like the Wells Fargo is. Same with the US Bank, still doing a little better than Wells Fargo. They're pretty low. So another question that came in here is insurance. So all 3 of these types of organizations do have some kind of insurance for the depositor. So like my dad was saying, when you look at credit unions, it's basically everybody that gets into the credit union has ownership in the credit union. So they tend to be a lot less risky in the kind of loans they give out. They will do home loans, they'll do commercial loans, and they'll also do cars. So a lot of people think of credit unions as the place where you go get a car loan. So you'll see that a lot with people too. And then when you get into banks, they'll do a lot of lending out to commercial and also like construction loans. You'll see a lot of that. And then a lot of mortgages come in pretty heavy to the banks. So there is insurance that's there. It used to be, I can remember it being 100,000, and now it's gone up to 250,000 per insurer. If you have a trust set up the right way, I believe you can go up to $1.2 million with a particular bank. If you have more than $250,000 at a bank or a credit union, you really need to consider moving some of that to another institution or get a trust with different beneficiaries. There's a certain amount for each beneficiary. You'd have to talk to your attorney on that to make sure you set it up right. But
excuse me, Jared,
yeah.
You can go to the FDIC website, and they have a calculator that will calculate how much of insurance you get. On a trust, I looked it up, and it was $250,000 per beneficiary.
Okay.
Check it out for yourself.
So my first tip of the night is going to be this. If you have money at a bank, credit union, I don't know that there's any savings loans around anymore. I think they're all gone.
Either.
I think those are all gone. So, which is too bad, because you guys could get some pretty killer products out of a savings and loan, and they did a lot of really good work for us as a country and as people. But you can go to the FDIC insurance. Now, credit unions have a different one. It's different. It's like UMCA or something like that, but they have their own version of it. Just go onto Google and type in FDIC for credit unions, and you'll see that organization. It'll come up too. But they're both $250,000. You can look at the calculator and make sure that you guys have that too. So Azure Blue says banks have free trusts called token trusts. So there's another thing to go look up. I don't know too much about that. I'd have to do some more research on that too. All right. So Amy says, let's look at her comment here real quick. FDIC basically has around $680 billion versus $2 trillion that people have on account that some people will be paid. Okay. So I don't know the exact numbers. We'll go based off of what Amy has on there. I heard it was a lot less than that. I know a lot of that money's already been used last year to bail out the couple banks that happened. So just because FDIC insurance exists, it does not mean that if there is a big, huge nationwide crisis of a lot of banks at the same time, that you're going to be able to get your money out very quickly. So tip number 2 that I'll give you guys tonight is this. I would definitely recommend having some money at home in a safe place. My recommendation would be like 2 weeks worth of expenses. So I would at least have that at the minimum, right? If you can, it's probably a good idea to have a couple months worth of either income or expenses. I like to recommend having a couple months worth of food storage and water. It's hard to store much more than a month worth of water. You can get big barrels that do it, but it's going to take up a lot of space. But first you need food storage, and then second you need to have some greenbacks, and then you start looking at silver and gold as being backup currencies to use. But I definitely recommend having some of that out of the system. If we have a banking issue where there's a cyber attack, or we have like a bank holiday that comes up where they need to close them for a period of time, it's most likely not going to be a super long period of time, but it could be anywhere from a week to a couple months. And so you'll feel a lot better if you have funding that's outside of that still lets you be able to do things. If you don't, it can get a little trickier. You may have to run to the bank and deal with it. In other countries, the way they've dealt with it is you might only be able to take $700 a month out. I'm assuming mortgages might get frozen if some of those kind of things happen, but those are still extreme situations. They're not going to happen very often. And we don't know when it's going to happen, if it does happen at all. So, I'm not saying take all your money out, put it under your bed, or, completely get out of the dollar. I think you need dollars. I think you need to be able to have that to pay for things. So what did Seymour say here? He says, I carry more than 2 weeks expenses in my wallet. Well, I don't know. Either you have very small expenses or you have a very big wallet. One of the two. So I like that. That was funny. Craig says some credit unions are available to the public, and there are some that are private, only available for law enforcement or government employees. And those CUs have better benefits for their clients. So that is true. Around here, I've noticed in California, they have one for school teachers or employees of the school district. I cannot join that because my wife or myself or any of my other family members are direct family members are teachers or work for the school. So we're not able to do that. You also have like Navy Federal Credit Union. I didn't serve in the armed forces or in the Navy, so I can't join that. So some of these you can't. Some of them may be a little bit more broad. The one I have in Utah, you just have to have been a resident in that county and you qualify. So that is something to look for.
Hey, Sufer, can I make a suggestion or a comment?
Yeah.
One thing that Sufer mentioned is that it's good to maybe allocate your money to different banks. Even though they're insured up to $250,000, if that particular bank that you have the money in happens to fail, then it could take a while to get your money back. You'll be insured, but it could take quite a while to get it back. So it's kind of nice to have several different banks that you have your money in. Now, something that I learned recently is I had quite a bit of money in one particular bank, and I decided to open up another bank account with a different bank, and I tried to transfer a pretty good chunk of money over in one day, and I didn't know it, but they said, nope, you're past your maximum 1 day withdrawal. So when you're opening up an account, if you have quite a bit of money, you better make sure that you find out what their maximum is per day. You could withdraw 2 or 3 days in advance, but I don't know if they have any restrictions on
Yeah.
how much per week or per month or whatever that you withdraw. But
Well, I know it. At one of my banks, actually both of the banks I go to, not the credit union because I haven't done this at the credit union yet, but at the banks, anytime I take cash out, they want to know what I'm doing with the cash. They want to know why I'm taking the cash out. If you take $10,000 or more out, it starts to send off red flags for Homeland Security with money laundering. So all of a sudden now they start, the branch president's got to come over and they've got to ask you a handful of other questions that the teller asks you too. And they start trying to figure out, what are you going to do with this? If you go onto social media, there's some really funny little memes and shorts that have been created talking, showing people just saying the stupidest things for why they're taking the money out just to make a point about it. But what that tells me is if banks are hesitant on you taking cash out, it tells me they're either really hesitant on fraud or they're really hesitant because maybe they don't have as much liquidity and they want to make sure you're not taking it out because you're afraid the bank's going to collapse. So it could be it could either be either one or both of those things. So my recommendation is trying to take less than $5,000 or less out at a time is going to be a lot easier to do. And if you need the money for sure, it's always good to call ahead and make sure that they have it. Sometimes they've got to go back into the bank vault to go get it out. One other thing that I thought was pretty cool here from Creeping Time, just to point out, credit unions are calling it a dividend instead of interest that's paid out, which makes a lot of sense. I actually haven't paid that much attention to the language on there.
And I'm not real familiar with the insurance of accounts, but I'm sure that there's you can go on and I'm not sure what the site is even to look it up, but your particular credit union would have all that information and you can verify it. I don't know if it's part of FDIC or if it's completely different.
That's very true. And then here, Azure Blue's pointing out to us guys too that credit unions have NCUA. That's the one that they have, and then you have FDIC. So definitely look both of those up. Let's see what else we got. A bunch of comments coming in from you guys, so thank you. 949 Designs, thank you. He's a new member, so thank you for joining. We do have a Zoom chat that happens once a month. That's actually coming up here. I think next. It's either this week or next week. I think it might be this next Wednesday coming up. So send me your email address send it to stackingsurfer@gmail.com, and I can get you added into that feed for us. And then we'll also get a sticker off to you guys for the channel. Let's see. Okay. I'm still laughing about this, Seymour. Like, how big's your wallet, dude? So I don't know. I got 5 people in my household. Our weekly expenses living in California are stupid high. My wallet's not that big. Okay. Let's see. I'm going to try to catch up with all your comments, guys. So OC Stacker says, I can join Orange County Credit Union. So maybe I need to do that. I'll have to look at that. So this is another example of one that's based on the county ownership. But like we were saying earlier, their credit unions are usually based on being part of a union, being part of an organization, or being in a small geographic area. You can get oftentimes a lot better benefits than you can at the banks. And I think that's one of the reasons they're restricted to their geography. So Azure Blue has some friends in high places. The Pentagon Federal Credit Union. Now, we're not going to ask any more questions on that. We got to be good in this chat now.
Surfer, you want me to bring up a comment?
Yeah, totally.
Okay. So right now at some of the banks, you can get interest rate of around 5%. So that's pretty good. That's the highest it's been in years, probably over a decade. At what point should you start putting your money in CDs? If interest rates are going to be going down, then you want to put your money in CDs so you can lock in that interest rate. Do you have any comments on that?
Okay, so first off, My first comment is I don't think interest rates are being dropped or going down until you actually hear the Fed announce that they're doing it. Right now, they said that they were going to lower them, and they've already backtracked that. I personally don't think inflation's done with its cycle, and I think if you look historically, we'll probably have 2 more spikes, and they tend to be higher than the previous one. Each previous one. So my guess is if the Fed starts lowering rates here soon, we're going to have another big spike in inflation, and they're going to have to either stop lowering them and raise them, or we're just going to go into having a lot higher percentage inflation than we've been used to over the last decade. So, but to that point, it could happen. And when it does happen, that is a good point to look at for CDs. So you guys, as you look at how much money you have, okay, there we go. As you look at how much money you have out there, there's many things you can do with it. Okay. So when you talk allocation, a lot of people out there, if you talk to a financial advisor, which I am not one, but if you talk to a lot of financial advisors, they may tell you that precious metals makes sense to maybe be 3 to 5% of your allocation. They're going to tell you a percentage for cash. And that cash could go into CDs, and some of it could be set aside for like short-term emergencies. Excuse me. And then they'll talk to you about equities, which are stocks. They may talk to you about bonds, which are going to be more long-term. They're different than CDs, but they're going to be taking. It's not a certificate of deposit with the bank where you're getting paid interest off of depositing money for a certain period of time. The bond's going to be based off buying some debt, either from a company or from a government. Most of you are going to probably do it in T-bills. There's going to be a maturity date, and then there's also going to be a rate that they pay. So right now, last year you could get like these crazy, I want to say they're up to like 6% interest for, 3-month bonds. Okay. They're a little trickier to get your hands on and deal with if you don't have a broker to help you, but that's another part of it that can go into place. Some people will do crypto as a percentage. Others will do real estate. And then you'll have things like your businesses that you may be investing in. So all of these different things are on a spectrum, right? So when you look at that, if you've got your cash allocation and you don't think you're going to need it all right now, and it doesn't look like everything's going to fall apart, a CD can be a great way for you to put some money away at a higher interest rate. So I say as soon as the Fed announces that they're officially lowering the rates, that's a good time to lock in some of your money if that's something you're comfortable doing. Like I said, not financial advice.
Yes, and the strategy there is that it's nice. I mean, 5% interest, but it's a savings account, and they can lower it they'll lower it faster than they raised it.
Yeah.
And so they could just go boom and start lowering it. So that's exactly right on the strategy. You want to try to take a look and lock it in at the highest naturally. And so, yeah, look at the Feds because, I just read recently that they're not going to lower in March. So we'll see. I think it's June is the next one.
Yeah, my personal guess is they won't lower the rates until you start to see more banks having problems. So I think they want to keep it as long as they can. If you start seeing more banks fail, and when you see a bank fail, guys, sometimes it's a bank failing. Sometimes you'll hear a merger. It's kind of the same thing. But as you start to hear that there's some other issues going on with some of the banks, I think that's at the point where they may consider lowering it down. The other thing's going to come into play if they start to see like job numbers starting to, unemployment rates starting to go a lot higher. Right now, the GDP looks really good. And, there's a lot of debate on whether the GDP is real or if it's just based on, everything going up in value. Therefore, there's more money produced. And I forget exactly how GDP is calculated. But I've heard from 2 different people, a couple of my friends that say, hey, the calculation's perfect in there. So it does account for inflation. I've had other people tell me it doesn't. So I'm not positive on that, but I did want to point out a couple other comments here real quick. So Craig said that his credit union does not ask questions when withdrawing. So my guess is you're probably not running into too many problems with the credit union versus some of the banks. And I don't know that the credit unions got themselves into as much of a problem with, like, some of the regional banks are having issues because they lent a lot of money to developers that did a lot of office buildings, and the occupancies way down. And then you have a lot of people that A lot of those loans are now recasting after 3 years, and the rates are going from 1 to 3% up to 4 to 6%. So you've got people that could turn in a bunch of these properties too. Okay, let's see here. What's this one? Seymour says, also banks can help someone if they are being victimized and being forced into a withdrawal. So this is a good point to make. When you look at things like cryptocurrencies, when you send it to someone, it is gone. Hopefully you sent it to the right address, because you cannot reverse it. When you send money via Venmo, you cannot reverse that. It is gone. It has been sent to where it's going, and you're up to that other person to send it back if you sent it to the wrong person. When you send a money wire from a bank, from your bank to another person, there's a period of time that they have to reconcile that. And sometimes one of the reasons they're asking these questions is, or part of the reason they're asking the questions is to find out if you're being told to take it out. So if you say, hey, I've got a guy that I'm giving this cash to because I've got this really good investment, they may start asking you some more questions to try to help you. My father-in-law has been hit twice now with some companies, and he's over 80 years old, and he doesn't know the computer stuff all that well, but he's had a couple people get him on phones where they've sent him an email and said, hey, your account's got a big problem. You need to hurry and address this. And they started asking for bank account information, and they started asking for all these other things. And he was able to stop one of these fraud things that was in the middle of happening by calling his bank and saying, hey, are you on the phone with me telling me to do this stuff? And they said, no, we're not. And they were able to stop the transaction. It was kind of in the middle of it. So I'm really glad that happened, because he almost lost all the money out of a line of credit. It was in the middle of being transferred. Okay. So he had already given them too much information. And then a second time, my mother-in-law called up and said, he's on with these other guys that said it was from Cox Cable, but they're talking to him about some other organization. And I told her just to pull the plug out of the wall. So she pulled the plug out of the wall and killed the computer. And then my father-in-law got on the phone, and I said, stop. Do not reply to anybody that's sending you emails anymore. So, watch out for the fraud stuff that goes on too, guys. So I don't know about this. This is another comment here too. Like, we're a little behind on the comments, guys, but I don't know much about that. So Azure says, if you have larger cash deposits, a great place would be Vanguard's money market. They're currently paying 5.28% on cash, and your account is separately insured by Vanguard for a higher limit than banks. That's great. So one thing I will throw out there, guys, is anytime you're looking at a high interest account, you need to find out if it's insured. Okay, some of them are insured by the FDIC. Some of them are going to be insured by, there's a whole nother organization, Azure Blue will have to remind me in there, but there's another organization for brokerage accounts that's like an FDIC insurance. And then some of them may even do their own insurance. It sounds like that's the case here with Vanguard. Just a second here. We need to put us on Do Not Disturb. Okay. So you want to make sure where you're putting your money that it is insured, right? If you're going to get high interest, some of these places are not insuring that, right? It may just be in the money market that has risk. I haven't done that recently, but in the past I've seen that, and it'll tell you, hey, there's risk of losing money in this account. It's not guaranteed. When you look at that, that's something you need to be concerned of. Do not expect that your money is completely safe there. So you need to definitely check that around. Craig says shop around. I think that's a great idea too, guys. You'll find different ones. And Creeping Time knows where the awesome hair comes from. So that's good. Yeah, you guys have got a lot of good comments in here. So,
Surfer, you want me to give you another comment?
Yeah, do go.
What's important, even if you have deposits less than $250,000, there's different rating companies that you can go to, pay them a little bit of money, and they do the research to see how safe that particular bank is. I use one particular place called Wise, WISE, and anyway, it's not too much. I don't know, $70 a year, something like that. But they go through and they rate the companies. You can look and see their delinquencies, their loan delinquencies, see what their capital ratios are, just to make sure the bank's safe. Even though that it's insured and you know that your money's safe, but last year when those banks went under, they honored the deposits. I think within a week, people could withdraw the
But
money.
what would happen if you had 100 banks go out in the same week?
Then you'd have some issues. Yeah,
It would take a while for them to pay.
Yeah, then you wouldn't have these big banks come and gobble them up and take over the responsibility of the bank accounts.
Yeah.
Then you're going to have to hit FDIC, and it could take quite a while. So yeah, it's good to try to find out how safe your particular bank is.
I think that's very important, guys. And I look at everything in two different lenses. One is the possibility, and the second one's the probability. So it's possible to have a lot of banks have a problem or go under at the same time. How probable is it though? So you know, short of like a major black swan event happening with say a cyber attack that takes out a ton of banks, or the Federal Reserve decides to start raising interest rates, and you start having a bunch of banks fail. Banks aren't just going to fail out of the blue for no reason, right? There's going to be something that kind of triggers them. You can have cascading effects. If you've ever heard of things like runs on banks, if you have one bank that has a major problem, let's say a big bank, and everybody thinks their money's no longer safe and they all run to the bank to take their money out, you can have multiple problems cascade on it. So the way I like to look at things is, and I got this from another YouTuber that lives not too far from me here, Mark Moss. He looks at what he wants to do from a plan standpoint. So if you've got 100% of your money that you want to allocate, and you take a portion of it, say for cash, and some of that you're going to put into, say, CDs or T-bills, or the cash that's in the bank, any of that could be at risk if the bank goes down. If you have the insurance, it should pay out the insurance. If the government does not pay out the insurance, or the FDIC stops paying out insurance, we have a whole nother issue to worry about. But that's never happened before. So when you start worrying about things like that, you're now getting beyond reality, and you're getting into like some major conspiracy theory stuff, right? So you got to be careful how far you take that. But with that, you look at the probability. If you think that your bank is really good and you've done the research and you think it's safe, then your probability is pretty slim. You know, you don't worry too much about it. If you think your bank's got some bigger issues and you're kind of worried about it, well, then maybe you don't put as much in as you would normally do, and you have a little bit more at your house.
I have one other comment on that regard. Okay, so I'm naturally from the old school of doing things, and I don't understand computers that well. But I would recommend, I don't know if people print out their bank statements these days, but I'd recommend every few months to print it out. Because if you had that cyber attack thing,
Yeah,
and you don't have any proof that you have money with that bank, I don't know what's going to happen. But if you have your statement right there, and you can go into the bank and say, well, there's my money.
So I've gone back to getting mailed bank statements every month. It costs me a couple bucks per account, but it's at least a record of something. So I'm no longer going paperless. I'm having everything sent to me just because there could be a potential problem that comes up. I don't know. I don't know if we're going to have a big, huge banking problem. I think there's a high probability of it because everybody's talking about it. So it seems like it could be a bigger issue. And when I say everybody's talking about it, it's not like my mom's not talking about it or my wife. They're not worried about it. But in the market, you have a lot of financial professionals that are worried about the banks, and you have a lot of people that are worried about a potential cyber attack from Russia as retaliation with the war that's going on. So if some of those things were to happen, you know, are you guys prepared for that?
Do you want me to tell you the biggest problem with banks?
Okay, tell me.
Okay. So the regulators come in, and in their infinite wisdom, they dictate how much money you have to have in reserves as far as a bank is concerned. And so when they were over a decade, interest rates were so low, and they were making them buy treasuries at a very low interest rate and keep it on their books as reserves for the bank. Well, the problem is that they were buying these treasuries at a low rate and getting a low return on it. And now interest rates they're having to pay up for their deposits at a lot higher rate than their treasuries. And so they're losing money big time on that. And that's if
they need cash, because everybody starts taking cash out, is that one of the places they may go to get it?
Well, they can go to they can put that up, and they can go to the feds and borrow money against it, but it's still on their balance. Here's something interesting. I just researched this recently. It used to be you had to mark the value of those treasuries to market on a quarterly basis. They don't make them do that anymore. If they did, you'd see a whole bunch of banks going under or having huge losses. They don't have to market until I don't know when they sell it or something. I'm not quite sure, but that's the biggest problem for banks.
Or you have the maturity date that comes up. So right now, the Federal Reserve has a program. I'm having some brain issues tonight with the names of everything, but I forget the name of it. But I think it has to be paid back in March next month, and I think there's around $200 million worth of bonds that they've borrowed against.
I mean billions.
Sorry, billion. Yeah,
Yeah.
200 billion worth.
So, yeah. So that's, the whole thing with our whole government is we're underwater because we're what do we owe?
Yeah,
30
we owe a
some
lot.
odd $trillion.
34 trillion.
$34 trillion. That's ridiculous. But they have to get that money somewhere, so they go out and they sell their treasuries.
So back in the day, before we ran deficits like this, we did things like, if you guys remember seeing in the old movies, they called them war bonds. So if you wanted to go to war, you would do a bond, and you would have all the people pull their money together and help pay for that war. Now we just print the money. So Craig says, I look at more at probabilities by being analytical to forecast and project from all angles to see my pros and cons, and if what benefits him in the long run. I would agree. That's a good way to look at it too. One thing we've got to all be careful of is emotion. If you hear your neighbor say, my bank doesn't have any money, I'm going to hurry and go run out and get it. And you hear that and you go, oh my gosh, I'm going to hurry and run out and go get money from my bank too. That's how we cause these problems too, because people freak out over it. The other good point here from Creeping Time is, do look over your statements on a regular basis. Make sure you know how much money's in there. Because a lot of us are not balancing our checkbooks like our parents maybe did. It can be a little harder for us, especially if you have larger amounts of money, to realize if a little bit's missing from it. So I recently had an issue with one of my kids that was using one of my credit cards, and there was some fraud on there. And I don't look at my credit card bill, the total every day. And so it was 4 or 5 days later, and I was able to catch a few of those and have them reversed and get a new credit card sent in. Okay, let's see what we got here. I have 3 banks, 2 are big ones, and we have our retirement going into 2 of them, and we have our credit cards with them. Can't change deposits without charges on banks. Yeah, sometimes they're doing some new things now. Let's see what we got here. So OC Stacker has everything mailed to them. So I've just turned that on recently just so I have records just in case. So Neil, welcome to the chat. And let's see, we've got APP, Ultra MAGA Prepper as well. Beto 2024 or 22, 2024, and Amy Harrell. I don't know if I called you guys out earlier. And Freaking Awesome's in here too. Welcome, guys. So buy silver and platinum. That's a strategy. You can buy up the metals for sure. That's what the channel is really about. And then let's see what else we got here. So this is an issue with San Francisco, guys, big time. I'm in the tech field, so a lot of the companies are out of the Bay Area, and I know the Salesforce building, which is now the largest building in San Francisco, most of it's vacant, and they paid a lot of money for that building, and I don't know if they're going to start putting people in it or not and convert it. But a lot of the buildings are vacant. And then even with tech, most of the people in my company, they just work from home now. They don't go into the office anymore. Okay, this doesn't sound good. He had Craig's brother had his bank account hacked last week and needed help paying the rent, as well as money for groceries, gas, car, and maintenance. Ended up having to fork over $3,000 to help him out. Yeah, guys, that's never fun. But it's good to be able to have family members we can help out. Okay, let's see here. This is always good, guys. Be kind and grateful and happy and helpful. All right, let's see if you had any other questions in here. All right. So Craig says, Craig has been able to do some extra hustling on the side. So that's good that you're able to make some extra stuff. So that's another point I'll just give you guys as you're looking at all this stuff. The money you're going to put in the bank, the money that you earn, or the money that you're able to get off of interest, off of investments, let that grow for you. Let it work for you a little bit. One problem that can happen very much with getting heavy into precious metal stacking is you're not going to earn a yield on your silver and gold until I tell you guys. I'm going to be doing an interview with UPMA out of Utah pretty soon. So that's the guys we went to, the Goldbacks.
Oh, mhm.
So when I do a video on that, that is going to be one of the first things you guys will see, where you can buy gold and silver at spot with no fees, and you can sell it. There's a small fee for vaulting. That there is a way and a strategy there where you can actually earn yield on gold. But for the most part, you're not going to get any yield on gold and silver. So to me, it's a savings. It's an insurance. When it goes up in value, technically, most of the time it's going up because of inflation. So you're not really making any money from it. Now, if you get a coin that happens to get really popular and that goes up in value, or it becomes more rare and you've got a great condition of it, you can make some extra money outside of inflation on those. But for the most part, you're not going to rub two silver quarters together, for example, or two gold coins and have a third one pop out, right? They don't reproduce. So, if you have all of your money in precious metals, I guess you'd be really safe if everything falls apart, but you got to have food storage. You can't eat gold and silver. And you need to have some of your stuff making yield for you guys too. At least in my opinion, that's one of the things I like to focus on too. All right, I think we actually caught up on questions. So we're gonna go for about another 10 minutes here. Do you guys have any other? I guess maybe 15 minutes. Do you guys have any other questions for either for my dad, the banker, or for me tonight? And it doesn't necessarily have to be related to banking. If you guys have a real estate question, if you guys have an investing question, we can, guide you on a few things. We can't give you the financial advice, but we can definitely help. So I guess the other thing I would throw out there too is we talked about making sure your accounts are FDIC insured, okay, or the other version for credit unions. We talked about having multiple institutions that you put your money into, so that if one of them goes down, you still have access to your money in the other one. Mm-hmm. And when we say money, when it goes down, you have access to your money. It's access, guys. If it's insured, as far as we know, that's still valid. Okay. Could that be a worst case scenario where they don't pay back the FDIC insurance? I guess anything's possible, but I wouldn't worry too much about that. I would just worry about how long would it take them to pay out. So you want to make sure you got reserves, right? And then the last one we kind of talked about here too is, looking at how can you earn some yield and be able to grow your money. So even if inflation is higher than the percent that's being paid out in a money market or a CD, you're still getting something better than just leaving it in a checking account.
Yeah, and I was going to just caution everyone. I know you've probably heard this a million times. Surfer's heard it from his old man, but if it sounds too good to be true, it's too good to be true. If you're out at bankrate.com and they'll, a reliable source like that, they'll give you the updated who's paying the most interest. But there could be another little, whatever you call it, post or something, and when you're Googling it, that will say, we'll give you 9% on your money. Just beware of that, because a lot of people, they'll just say 9% sounds so much better than 5%. But be real cautious, because there's a lot of crooks out there today.
I agree. The other trend that kind of goes along with what Chad here is saying, I don't know what they're being told. I'm not a teller and I don't work at a bank, so I can't tell you exactly. But what I can tell you is that I'm seeing more and more branches close down. So what we do know is a fact is that the FedNow system launched last year. And so that's a new way for banks to do interbank transfers, which will be a lot faster than doing the wiring system. So one of the problems with wiring money is that it has to be done during bank hours. And it can take, a couple hours for it to go through. With FedNow, it's kind of like crypto where it can go very quickly. FedNow basically paves the road for a CBDC, which is a central bank digital currency. That has not been announced as being something that we're doing yet. You have some states like Florida that are putting laws in place to make it illegal to use that. I don't know what's going to happen. I don't know if we're going to have one that comes out. I don't know if we'll be forced to use one or if it'll be voluntary, to get extra money if you use it, or potentially this is how your tax return comes, or Social Security or something else. But if those kind of systems start coming into play more and we start to do more and more digital transactions, in addition to that, I was at a hotel out in Denver the other day for work, and they would not take cash. They only take credit cards. And I was at some other venue where they wouldn't take cash. They only take credit cards. So you're starting to see more and more organizations that do that. And as that kind of thing happens, there's going to be less need to go and have, these big branches and more branches around. So Wells Fargo's been closing branches around. Some of the other big banks have been doing it too. And so I think it kind of goes along with the statement here. It's maybe not necessarily they're trying to make it miserable for you, but I think they are trying to move more towards online banking. It's less expensive for the bank. They don't have to have as many people hired for it. And so I do encourage you guys to go into your bank, go into the branch, use those services. The less you use the services, the less you go to get cash out, the less you use cash, the more likely businesses are to go completely electronic. And as they go electronic, that option just starts to dry up. So that's one thing to just be aware of. Let's see if I had any other questions in here. So, whether the possibilities, welcome to the chat. You've probably been in here for a while, sorry. Is on first name basis with his tellers and executives. So, this is the advice I'm giving you guys as someone that wants to continue to be using their bank and getting to know people. I think it's a great idea. And I'm going to give you a couple of reasons why it's a really good idea. So first one, it's good for them to know who you are. It's good for you to know who they are. And I don't mean intimately. I just mean that they know your name. They know you come in and this is the place you bank. Okay. You're more likely to get help and service if something happens to your account or you run into a problem or you've got some fees. Sometimes you may have a credit card with your bank and you miss the payment by a day and you have a $50 fee. You know the tellers, you know the bank president, not president, but branch president, manager. Oftentimes you can go in and talk to them and, they may be able to waive the fee for you. It's going to be easier to do that than calling in to someone that doesn't know you. Number two, as you build a relationship, and I remember this as a kid, we would go up to some of the windows of the savings loan you worked for, and they would have like $50 for you that were silver. So one thing you can do is you can talk to the teller and say, hey, I'm really interested in picking up any $50 that get turned back in. And I want to take a look at them first. What's in your drawer. And if you get to know them, they're more likely to pull those out and have you look at them. And, if you go in once a week, maybe you can look at them on a regular basis. The more they know you, the more likely they are to help you get, big boxes of dimes, quarters, and $50 that you can do bankroll hunting with. The thing I will caution you on is a lot of I did a box of each of those at Wells Fargo, and at least from my local branch, there wasn't a single piece of silver in any of that. And so you do want to find out what the return policy is on those, right? So they told me I could return the box. They told me I could return the rolls, but I needed to roll everything first. So know what happens. Some local credit unions will actually just take the change and put it all into a bank bag and they'll weigh it. And then they'll, based on that weight, they'll give you everything back. So I think you have to have it divided by denomination. But that's another way to go. And then some other banks and credit unions will have the coin counters that you can put in and they'll do that as a service to you. So if you are going to get into the coin roll hunting, it's a really good idea to basically find out how you're going to back out of it. Hey, Nick, welcome. I'm glad that Nick's on. Maybe you've been on for a while. I don't know. She's saying hi to everybody. Hey, Brown Sugar, welcome. so I would do that for sure. And then the other reason I think it's good to get to know the tellers too is they just give you better service, and they may help you with different preferences. I've ordered, $2 bills, 100 of them, and I got them all sequential, which is really cool to look through them and see the serial numbers. They're more likely to do some cool things like that for you guys and to help out. So there you go. This guy over here is selling a bunch of them, huh, Joseph Lopez? All right. So Craig is on first name basis with the tellers at his credit union, and they and ask them to let him know if they find any silver coins to save them for him. And he brings them cookies and gift cards. So there you go. So do not expect that you're going to just show up to your bank or your credit union and have this great experience of them just handing you over all these silver coins, guys. But a lot of them don't care about it. If they do care about it, there may not be a whole lot of them in that branch. But oftentimes you can find them. I know OC Stacker has a friend that went to Arizona. So one of my friends locally here went to Arizona, and I think he got like 7 or 8 rolls of $50. And the bank had them just in the back. They've been sitting there for like 10 years.
Oh my gosh.
And they were all silver.
No. Wow.
So they were all like 1964 or older. And because he was at the bank, he paid $10 per roll. And I don't even know how much. It's like $800 or something like that. But I called out $800. Let's see. I don't know. I don't think it's as high as 800, but I'd have to do the math. I forget how many are in a roll. But anyway, there were a lot in there, and so he had a huge benefit from that. So you guys can find that stuff too. Okay, let's see. So Nick, is your power back on, or are you still out? So there you go. Chad found a silver dime. Probably not worth coin roll hunting if you find just one. Okay, let's see if we had any others here. At 40% silver, how many half dollars equal a troy ounce? I don't know. I don't want to do the math. It's Saturday night. There's my honest answer. But you gotta do the algebra on that. If you're looking at 90% silver, I want to say it's $1.40 face to get to a troy ounce of silver at 90%. So you'd need to go figure that out. The best way to do it is just look it up. There'll be a number on Google for you on that one. Let's see. Sure, Joseph, you can send me an email. All right, great show tonight. Did you guys enjoy this? So my dad's visiting down here. Yeah, so Azure's confirming my number there. I don't know what it is on 40% silver. I guess you could do the algebra on that really quick. So 20 times face would be about $200 a roll. Okay, thanks, Craig. So you guys, if you haven't subscribed to my channel, please hit the subscribe and the bell icon, hit the thumbs up too. And then also Nick's channel, as well as some of the other channels of subscribers that have been posted tonight. We're trying to build a strong community to help each other out with this and having a lot of fun with it too. So SPB, welcome. We've got a platinum video coming out with Sean's Precious Bullion this week, which will be fun. I just got to get it edited up and everything. And honestly, hopefully some of this information is helpful to you guys. Hopefully it's stuff that you haven't heard before, or at least it kind of reaffirms it. But, the key is learning. The key is discovery. The key is trying to learn how to do things better. For me, I've actually never even done a CD. I mean, I've heard about them all the time. I just haven't really played around with them much. Most of my money typically is in a brokerage account, not in the bank. So for my existence, most of it's been in equities. Most of it's been in brokerage accounts. I've started switching that over to precious metals for some of my savings. And I think I've probably even gotten a little heavier than I want to be in some of the precious metals. And so I'm starting to liquidate a little bit to strengthen my cash position.
Should we end with a little controversy here?
Oh, I don't know. What are you going to say?
Chiefs or 49ers?
Oh no. Okay.
Come
Yeah.
on, Chiefs or 49ers?
We got to
Let's
do
hear
it for Nick. So you guys, who's gonna win tomorrow? Is it gonna be the Chiefs or the 49ers? I'm not gonna tell you who we're going for yet, but we will in a second here. So we've got to buy gold, not platinum. So our video on platinum, guys, isn't necessarily telling people to buy it. It is telling people to, it's helping people understand what it's all about. So here we go, Dad. Look, they liked your wisdom. He's got more wisdom because his hair's not as dark as mine anymore. All right, so let's see what we got here so far. So I've got Nick down with 49ers. Freaking awesome 49ers. We've got Neil's Han Dynasty with Kansas City Chiefs. What are the possibilities with Chiefs? So see Stacker with 49ers, creeping time with the Chiefs. Either or. I think he just wants to watch the game, or he likes platinum or gold. I'm not sure.
Then I think.
Oh, we got a full-on prediction here. Look at this. 35-17.
Ooh.
So Azure Blue, I'm guessing you put some money on this game already. Oh, look at this. Now we've got buy platinum, not gold. So we're going to cover that off in the video. We're going to tell you guys why you might want to consider platinum, why you may want to stick with gold. All right, who else we got in here? 49ers, because I'm originally from the Bay Area and I got to represent. Well, I can respect that.
Maybe we should ask the question, if the Chiefs lose, is that what's the singer gal's name that's always in the picture?
Yeah, I don't even want to
make. Is she gonna cry or not?
I'm not even gonna bring her name up on here, but
okay, singer gal. I can't remember.
Let's see, what is this here? Your dad keeps all his looks, didn't pass them on.
Oh, poor
baby. That's funny. I actually look a lot like my mom's mom, which is kind of funny in her side of the family, but a lot of similarities with the two of us too. So Sean doesn't care who wins. He said he just wants his 21 leg parlay to win. I know what you're up to. Okay. I don't know. You guys will have to, if you guys want Dad to join, we can get into some hairier stuff on Zoom than we can on YouTube.
I've also been a real estate broker for 45 years, so I'd be happy to come back on to just talk about.
So there's a couple things we can do with my dad coming back on. One is we can talk about commercial real estate. We can talk about residential real estate. We can talk about what it's like to be a land developer. We can talk about what it's like to be a builder. He didn't functionally build, but he's had to hire builders to do that, and there's a process through that. We can talk about what it's like to own an investment property, and he can also talk a little bit more into some of the banking stuff in a closed Zoom that's not being recorded. We can share a little bit more information on some of our experience with stuff. So if you guys want that, those of you that are members, membership starts at $3 a month. It's not a heavy lift. Right now we do a Zoom call once a month. Pretty soon we're going to be offering some great deals on buying precious metals, better than you're going to find just about anywhere else. So I'm in the process of working on that. And that's only going to be for members that we're going to be doing that pricing. We're going to keep it behind the firewall for that, just so you guys know. I don't want to be competing with everybody that's doing auctions out there. I've got a lot of friends that are doing that. I don't want to be stealing business from them. So we're going to be doing things that'll be totally different than what they normally do. So think more just your regular bullion. But it's also going to be more in bulk. We're not going to be selling coins. We're going to be selling rolls and things like that. But anyway, we're going to get some good special pricing for people that have memberships. And then I do have a membership that's $50 that has one-on-one coaching with me. And I'll go through whatever you guys want to go through. I've got a lot of digital marketing, AI, and just general business background, as well as real estate too, that we can cover off on. So we got another hairdo thing. My hair always comes up, and your hair's coming up now, and Nick's hair's come up. It's like a hair channel. Mark doesn't even know who's playing. That's okay, dude. It's all good.
Or just watch it for the commercials. Come on.
Yeah, look, I'm going to have to say I grew up as a big 49ers fan when I was a kid. When I say fan, nowhere near Nick. Nick is like, I think her entire life is built around the Patriots and around football. For me, it's been fun to follow a few players here and there. I've never been to a professional football game, but I've been to, I don't know, probably 50 professional baseball games over the years. So I'm a little bit more of a baseball guy. Love the Dodgers. Also love the Cubs, even though they're in the same division, but different division, same league. Those are two places that I've lived that I really got involved in the baseball and had a lot of fun with my kids on it. But 49ers, that's who I'm going for tomorrow. I'm hoping the 49ers can win. So we'll see what happens, guys. Uh-oh. There you go. Exactly. I know what you mean. Okay, this is interesting. So sounds like Dad and Ninja have common paths. They are different, but kind of similar. So, you know, my dad started off doing mortgages, and he started off working at the savings and loan, and then he branched off into doing his own mortgage company. One other cool thing I'll throw out to you guys is he did start a video rental company before Blockbuster existed, as far as I know. However, he was not willing to put in a bunch of the garbage adult entertainment stuff. And so anytime you have a new technology like that, most of the people that are buying that stuff are not buying it for their kids, at least at that time. Kind of happened with DVDs and Blu-rays at the same time too. So the store didn't go as well as he wanted it to, and then he got into doing some real estate developing too.
Well, back in those days, you had 8-track and VHS. So you had a
Beta.
Oh, Beta, that's it. Beta and VHS. And they were both about $65. So any new title that came out, you had to buy both of them. So that was like $65 each. So $130 in each title, and we could rent them for like $1 each. And so,
but when the store closed, we got every freaking movie at our house, which was great. Yeah. So we had everything. I just wish we still had the original Star Wars videos there so we could send them to Nick. So Nick's my co-host, and she doesn't even know what Star Wars is. She calls them light swords or something like that. And then she called the AT-AT a anteater the other day. Goodness gracious. Okay, so is there a way to join the membership from YouTube app by phone? Do you have it enabled? I have no idea. I'm not sure. I have a hard time joining anybody else's channel via phone too. So Craig, I'll look for that, and I can send you a note once I figure that out. But let me see if I can figure out how to do it. We'd love to have you guys join. Right now, I think we've got 9 people in there. I'd love to get that up to 20 or 30 people. That would help us do even cooler things that I want to do for you guys. One thing I want to throw out too, you guys, put a 1 in the chat if you have any interest in the following. I was thinking about having a prototype 1-ounce silver surfboard keychain made for the channel, and we'd have a pretty good price on it. I mean, it's when you make this stuff, you're probably looking at close to $45 an ounce. So it's not going to be cheap, but it would be a cool surfboard thing, and it's kind of a way for you to carry a little bit of silver with you if you need an emergency. So put a 1 in if you guys have any interest in that. If not, I'm not going to worry too much about building it. But it's like a channel round, which might be kind of fun. Some of you guys might like it. Okay, so let's see if you had that. Hey, Gene Ferry, welcome. So Emmett Smith is a friend of Niels Han Dynasty, so I cannot go for the 49ers. Well, there you go. Everybody's got a reason for one way or the other. So Creeping Time doesn't have a choice either. The whole thing, it's just going to be like the whole town's going to shut down. All right. Anteater, that was classic. I know. Look, we're going to make her watch the movie, and we're going to record her watching it so we can get all the reactions, because that right there will be some of the best shorts on all of YouTube. I'm just telling you guys. Okay, so here's when Blockbuster was founded. October 1985. Was your store open before then? Did you beat them?
I think it was.
He beat them. He beat them, but he wasn't willing to put all the crap out there, guys. Did you even have R-rated movies or not?
I had some R,
He had a few R-rated movies, but none of the X stuff. You know, he didn't have the back room in the back. Other people did. All right, let's see here. So one of these days, Nick is going to become a Jedi. So I don't know if this will help you, Craig, or not, but It looks like on an Android it does that. Okay, we got a few ones. So if you guys have interest in that, I will look into the cost of it. It'll probably come from MK Bars is the first place I'm looking at to get a bid on that. So I'll take a look at it and see how many quantity I have to do that. Yeah, OC Stacker, if you know how to do it, let's see if we can get them figured out for that. The iPhones aren't very smart. Well, maybe not. I don't know. They did start the whole thing, but they sometimes lag. I think it took 3 years to get cut and paste on an iPhone, which is completely stupid. It just took forever. All right, let's see what else we got here. Oh, and he lives in. Okay, that's funny. I think that's funny. All right, last comment we got here, guys, in the football poll. All right, so we got to go get ready for tomorrow. We got Sunday. I've got church, and then we're gonna watch the game here at the house. We've got some friends coming over, and I'm gonna eat a bunch of crap, and then I'm gonna have to go run like 50 miles later next week to try to work it all off. It's kind of what happens on this day. So you guys have a lot of fun. Enjoy the game, and until next time, peace out, and come join us on Tuesday over at Nick's channel. Talk to you guys soon. Bye-bye.